Good afternoon, students. We will continue our morning lecture on postulates. Morning, I have given the scientific reason why we actually has to study or why we have to go through the quantum mechanics of postulates. And then just after this, I think we can just straight away go to the first postulate. And the first postulate says, this is actually related to the wave function. According to the first postulate, the state of a system is specified as fully as is possible by a state function or wave function psi of x comma y comma z comma t. Okay, so this is the statement of the first postulate in quantum mechanics. As I pointed out, this is related to the state function or wave function. So let me give you one example. Suppose if you are considering helium atom. Okay, helium atom as a whole, if you are considering, then to define any uh, particle position in the three-dimensional space, we require three coordinates. Am I right or wrong? To define anybody's position in the three-dimensional space, then we require three coordinates. So that is where from the x, y, z has come into the picture. And apart from that, as the state function is evolving with the time, so we will also have time coordinate. Okay, the state function will have two components. So depending upon the situation, depending upon the system that you're looking at, okay, basically the system will have as many coordinates and also a time coordinate, position coordinate and also time coordinate. Okay, what is a system actually? System can be anything of your interest. Okay, I just gave an example of the example of a helium atom. And why you are taking only helium atom? You can consider hydrogen atom. Fine. So to define hydrogen atom position in the space, right, as a whole, then we need again three coordinates and one time coordinate. Right. Initially at point time at time t is equal to 0, then you will find the position elsewhere somewhere in the space, and then from there onwards, if you start monitoring the position of the hydrogen atom, right, as we know that hydrogen atom cannot stay alone in the space, it actually keep on moving in the space, and then with the time basically it is changing. To define such a system, so this hydrogen atom in the three-dimensional space is your system, right? So and similarly helium atom, which is present in the three-dimensional space, again is another system. So if you are interested in studying the motion of the helium atom, so that becomes your system. And if you are interested in studying the motion of the hydrogen atom, that becomes your system, right? So once you are confined, or once you are actually arrived at your system or defined your system, then depending upon the situation, it may have it will have the position coordinates and also the one time coordinate. The position coordinates are actually are it can be one position, or it can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and n number of position. It is possible. So such systems are possible, and we will come across as we proceed further and further. So to remind you once again, the formula number one actually deals with the state function of a system. What is a system? System I already given two examples. Okay. Now, to give you more, realistic examples, what is a system, and how do we actually define the state function for a system? I have taken very real example, in the sense that we are actually chemists. We will be more interested in the chemical problems. So in that respect, I just wanted to share with you two real example. One such example is the hydrogen atom chemisorphed on a metal surface. Let us imagine that we have a metal, and the metal can be anything. I hope that you know the reduction of Raney nickel. You know that the reduction catalyst, right? Basically, the hydrogen atoms can be chemisorbed, right? It's not a physics option; it's a chemisorption. So the hydrogen atoms can be chemisorbed on a metal surface, any metal surface, maybe nickel, copper, etc., etc. So metal surface we can chemisorb. So this is my system. Okay, now the system, what I do, this is one system. Of course, this is not alone a system. So what I'm going to do, the hydrogen atom, it is basically chemisorb. So this is the situation. Now this system, I'm going to just perturb. I'm going to just perturb the system. So what do I mean by perturbation? The perturbation is nothing but, what you do. The chemical bonds are elastic in nature. They basically they behave like a spring motion or the harmonic oscillation motion, right? So you just try to pull the hydrogen atom from the metal surface, which is basically hanging on a metal surface. So in this direction, if you pull, then it executes some kind of motion, and that motion what we refer to as the harmonic oscillation motion. Okay, let's suppose for the time being we have displaced the hydrogen atom basically along the x-axis to some amount of displacement. The displacement is x. Okay, x is the amount of displacement that it has made, right? Now I want to study the hydrogen atom, which is chemisorbed and which is actually perturbed. Now it is making, basically this is a system, and once you perturb, then it start executing the oscillation. Then the oscillation can be in different directions. It can be along the x-axis, it can be along the y-axis, it can be along the z-axis. Now I am defining my system. Right? I will only I will only be interested in the amount of displacement that it has made along the x-axis. Now the point again comes in, even though it is making the displacement in the other directions, right? Naturally, when you disturb a spring, okay, a ball basically hanging on a spring, naturally it execute the motion in other directions as well. But I'm not interested in other motions. I'm only interested in the motion, the displacement that it is executing along the x-axis, right? So this is my system. I'm defining for some reasons. Okay, for some reasons I'm defining this is my system. For such a system, then the state function would be psi of x comma t. Why? It is only having one position coordinate, that is x, right? The answer is quite obvious that we are not interested in the harmonic oscillation behavior in the other directions. We are only interested in the amount of displacement this hydrogen atom is executing along the one particular direction, that is x-axis. Therefore, my state function will have only one variable. Suppose in case that if I am interested in the motion in the other directions, as accordingly the position coordinates actually will add in this position, right? So this is my system. So this is a real example that we are going to study this problem. Of course, similar problem, harmonic oscillator behavior, how it works, and then the harmonic oscillator, the energy is quantized, and the wave functions, everything we are going to study. This will come again and again, but just to remind you, this is a real chemical problem that we are going to study. Okay, the system is of your choice. Okay, it can be anything of your own interest. Okay, and accordingly it will have as many as position coordinates, and also it will have one time coordinate. Time t is actually referring uh, to the referring the behavior of the system, how it is actually varying with respect to time. Another example, as I told you that the helium atom as a whole, it actually executing. Okay, you just imagine that you are in a parallelepiped one rectangular room, right? And then helium is a gas, and then you just leave the helium atom. So helium atom as a whole, it is actually moving. As a whole, if it is moving, then the state function of helium atom would be psi of x comma y comma z comma t. Why? Because as a whole you are interested in. So that's its state function is already given in the previous slide. Now I'm interested in the special motion of the helium atom. It's not the whole as a whole the helium atom, but it is something beyond that. Okay, as we know that the helium atom is having a nucleus, one nucleus, and then the two electrons, right? So as you know very well, the nucleus is rather heavier mass particles are basically located in a small region. Therefore, according to the von Oppenheimer approximation, the nucleus doesn't move as compared to the motion of the electrons. It is rather it is said to be static, or it is basically it doesn't change, right? So based on that ground, I can keep my coordinates on the nucleus. Okay, the nucleus on the top of the nucleus, I can keep my origin, and then I can just start measuring the position of the electrons. Let's say I have one electron, and whose position coordinates are actually defined to be x1, y1, z1. I have another electron, as you know that the helium atom, the atomic number is 2, and then it will have 2 electrons. And the second electron position coordinates are defined to be x2, y2, z2. Okay. Now, uh, this is as basically as a whole. When you talk about only, it will have basically 3 position coordinates. On the other hand, if you are only considering if you are considering the internal motion, that too if you confine yourself into the internal electron motion, then this system is basically what I refer to as a 6-dimensional system. 6-dimensional system, because you need 3 position coordinates to monitor the position of the one electron, and another 3 more coordinates to define or to track the position of the other electron. Therefore, as a whole, it requires basically 6 coordinates to track the 2 electron motion, and obviously we will have one time coordinates. So this system, what I say is that this is a 6-dimensional problem, right? And the previous example which I have given in the previous slide, the hydrogen atom which is chemisorbed, this is basically what I refer to as a one-dimensional problem. So the one-dimensional problem. And if I go back and see here, helium atom as a whole, or the hydrogen atom as a whole, then these two becomes actually 3-dimensional problem. Okay, so the dimension here refers to the number of position coordinates that we are actually that uh, that are actually involved in the involved in defining the system. Okay, now this system, the helium atom, actually it is referred to as the 6-dimensional problem. Okay, as the number of position coordinates are increasing in a given in any given state function or the wave function, accordingly the solving the Schrodinger wave equation becomes rather tedious, and then that is where we will go to we will basically end up into very much problem. Of course, there are several there are several remedies are already proposed, right? But for the time being, what you remember is that the any system that can be defined based on your choice and interest, and according to the your definition of the system will have the state function will have. Okay, any state function is defined as fully as is possible by a state function or the wave function. That is the definition of the postulate number 1. So according to which the system can be defined by yourself. You means basically a chemist can define the system. Now, according to the system of definition, the state function of that particular system will have as many as possible position coordinates and also one time coordinate. And the system and the state function is basically is also named based on the number of position coordinates, and in a very vaguely in a crude approximation, people used to call it as a 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension, 6 dimension, 9 dimension, 12 dimensions, etc. It all based on the number of the position coordinates involved in the state function. Okay, right. Now the obvious question next comes is that, sir, what is the use of this wave function or the state function? right? So, okay, I have a system, and then I defined my system, and then I have a wave function. Now, what do I do with the wave function, right? That is a quite obvious reason, obvious question that will arise, and the answer is here that once you know the state function, it is possible that you can calculate the probability of the state function. Okay, the probability of this of a system is defined to be psi star psi d tau, psi star psi d tau. Okay, and here psi is basically a very broad state function of the wave function. Of course, I have not defined the number of position coordinates and so on, but then it is quite obvious that based on your system, then the state function will have accordingly the position coordinates and the time coordinates. And also, you can see the d tau is nothing but the volume element. D tau is nothing but the volume element. Now, this particular probability, if you can apply to a three-dimensional system, as we have seen in the previous case, like the hydrogen atom or the helium atom, we have seen that both are basically comes under when you are actually monitoring the position of the helium atom in a three-dimensional space, or the hydrogen atom moving in a three-dimensional space actually becomes a three-dimensional problem, right? Accordingly, the their state function will have three position coordinates and one time coordinate, right? So for such a system, the probability is given by psi star x y z tau multiplied by, there is a mistake here, let me correct it right now. Yeah, it cannot be the second wave function. This cannot be complex conjugate, right? That is the problem, right? So psi star xyz tau multiplied by psi xyz t multiplied by basically the volume element, that is d tau, right? So this can be applied to any other this above equation, that the probability equation can be applied to any dimensional problem. Now, why do we see the volume element? Why do we see a volume element? Can anybody give a reason why here the probability expression psi star psi is multiplied by d tau? What is the relevance of the d tau in this expression? Can anybody explain? Well, let me ask another person. Amrita. Okay, Amrita. Okay, fine. Can you tell me the reason? Do you know the reason why there is a volume element sitting over there in the probability expression?
Uh, uh, I don't know exactly, sir. I
Hmm.
think the particle, the probability of finding the particle within within that volume.
Fine. But by the way, I let me ask once again one more question.
Uh,
Uh, everybody, anybody can answer this. Why there is a psi star psi? Why not it is simple psi star, psi square? So nobody is asking questions basically. I just said something which is
Complex conjugate.
uh,
so
Complex conjugate.
okay. It is complex conjugate. Fine, very much correct. But why there is a complex conjugate we are taking? Why we can't take simple psi square?
For normalization.
What is the normalization? Why you are doing normalization?
Sir, psi star psi is 1, so we get 100 probability.
Integral 0 to infinity. Psi square is equal to 1.
Okay. So many of you have studied somewhat basic or elementary quantum mechanics or quantum chemistry. So you have to answer this question. Okay. So what is the reason? Do you remember any reason which was actually explained by your teacher in your under UG level? Why we are taking psi star? Why can't be a very simple expression here? Probability is equal to psi square d tau. Okay, this is my question number one. Question number two, actually, why we are using a volume element? Okay, so I think, yeah, any answer? Somebody is unmuted. Can you tell me who is that?
Sir, wave function have several properties.
Wave function has several properties. What are those?
It must be single valued,
Uh-huh,
finite,
uh-huh,
differentiable,
uh-huh,
continuous,
uh-huh,
and normalized.
uh-huh. These are all fine, but so your answer did not answer my questions. Who is this girl replied to me just now? What's your name?
Bhavana.
Okay, Bhavna. So your answer did not answer my questions. You have
Sir,
answered something.
maybe volume element may be due to the particle. If we consider a molecule, it's spherical, so it must have a volume.
Okay,
So there must be volume element.
there must be a volume element. You are very close, but not correct. Can you try out once again? Okay, let me give the answers before, I think, without taking much time. The first and foremost thing, the question number 1, which I would like to give the answer. Here, psi star psi, probability is, you know that the probability is a real number. Can it be a negative or can it be a imaginary? I think I'm sure that basic mathematics you would have studied what is probability, and then is it a real number or an imaginary number? Can it be a imaginary? So definitely the probability cannot be a imaginary or negative number. Therefore, in order to take that into consideration, we have actually introduced. Okay, I mean, we can just take the square. We can just take the square of the function, wave function, or the state function. Therefore, the square of any negative thing can be actually is a positive. I am sure that negative uh, some value minus 1 multiplied by minus 1, how much it is basically square anything square, whether it is a plus or minus, the square of any value basically becomes a positive. Therefore we use we take the square. But again, you see that the state function or wave function can be imaginary, where you will have a real and imaginary part, complex numbers, right? So therefore, in order to take those things into the consideration, that the instead of taking a simple square, okay, we are taking one wave function and multiplying with its complex conjugate, and then that is the number. Definitely it becomes a positive quantity. Okay, so why we are always worried about positive? Because the numbers are the systems which we are going to deal with are the real systems. So when the system, when our systems are real, then what is the point in basically going behind some numbers which are complex or which are basically imaginary, right? So that is, while developing this theory, people have well thought of this complexity, and then they have introduced psi star psi d tau is the probability, right? Am I answered your question? The first question, the answer to the first question is over. The second question is the volume element, and the answer is quite obvious, very much obvious, that Bhavana has given some answer. So let me consider the same metal surface which we have discussed. Let's say, okay, we have a metal surface, and on the metal surface that we have basically chemisorbed a hydrogen atom, right? And the hydrogen atom, once you actually pull the hydrogen atom, then it start executing the harmonic oscillator, and it basically displaces. Okay. Now the system, as you can see here, this is my starting position or the equilibrium position. This is where my origin is here, right? So origin O is here. Okay, so this is the equilibrium position of the hydrogen atom initially, but later on, once you start pulling, basically once you start perturbing the system, then it started executing the harmonic oscillation behavior, and along the positive x direction. Okay, now let us consider a small volume. Okay, as I told you that this, as far as this problem is concerned, as long as you are interested in the displacement which is making in along the x-axis, this problem becomes the one-dimensional problem, right? So it is executing the oscillation along the x direction, therefore it becomes the one-dimensional problem. So along the one-dimensional along the x-axis, let us consider a small volume. That volume is nothing but the dx. Okay, so the interval of the dx is defined here. It is the dx. Okay, now I will define my dx in a different fashion. Another dx I define. This is another dx I just wanted to define. Maybe let me put it, this is dx1. This is another volume, right? This is the another volume. This is a small, the initial one is a small interval, the other one is a little bigger interval. Okay, there are two intervals along the x direction. Now, I will ask a question that in which case the probability will be higher. It is in the first case or the second case? Am I clear to you? Am I clear to you? My question is clear to you? I'm asking a very simple question that it is executing x direction the harmonic oscillator, right? So I'm considering two intervals. I'm considering two intervals. Probably you can take this as a x, okay, and this as a x plus dx. So what is the size of the interval? Okay, what is the size of the interval? Basically dx, right? Similarly, I can define this interval. Okay, this interval is much a bigger interval or larger interval, right? Now I am asking a question that I have two intervals. I have defined two intervals. One is small interval, the other one is little larger interval. Now I am asking a question. Now your hydrogen atom is executing in this direction the harmonic oscillations, right? Now the question is, in which case, okay, the probability of finding this hydrogen atom will be higher. Elizabeth?
dx.
Huh?
First case.
dx. dx
Yes.
or dx1?
dx.
Why?
dx.
Why?
It will be maximum in dx case probability.
No, you mean to say that you have a basically you are trying to look at the position in a small interval and in a bigger interval. So in which case the finding the probability of this hydrogen atom will be higher? This is the question. And you are saying that in a small value element, higher is the probability of finding electron or finding the hydrogen atom. Does it make any sense? Does it make any sense? Your answer. It doesn't make any sense, right? A smaller volume, you have a smaller interval, okay? It in the small volume that dx, finding this hydrogen atom is the probability of finding this hydrogen atom within the small region will be smaller. As the length of the interval basically increases, accordingly finding the probability will increases. You can just, it is a quite obvious explanation and the reason. There is nothing explanation is needed further actually. You have a higher the volume, higher is the probability. Higher the volume, higher is the probability. Therefore, volume has to be there, right? If you are considering a small, then the finding that the particle in that particular small region then will be small. And if you have a bigger volume or bigger interval, then the finding the electron in that particular region will be higher, right? So this is quite obvious reason. Therefore, the probability definitely depends upon the volume that you are interested in. Okay, the probability directly proportional to, in this particular one-dimensional problem, it is directly proportional to the volume dx, or the small element dx. And the quite obvious reason, the larger the volume, probability is large, and smaller the volume, probability is small. Now the probability in this particular case, if you can apply the probability to this one-dimensional problem, then it becomes psi star x of psi star x comma t multiplied by psi xt dx is equal to psi modulus of psi x of t. There should be a bracket over here. So I think I have missed it. Let me add this also. Yeah. Okay, so that is the expression. Okay, so the psi star x of t multiplied by psi x of t can be written as the psi star modulus of psi star. Okay, psi star square, and then multiplied the volume element. Okay, now if you can apply the same thing to a three-dimensional problem, in such a situation, the volume becomes somewhat different, right? So when you are thinking of a three-dimensional system, parallel piped one rectangular box, you have to imagine, and in that case, the volume actually becomes d of x comma y comma d of dx dy dz, right? In that case, the probability can be written as psi star xyz t psi xyz t multiplied by dx dy dz, right? So this dx dy dz is nothing but the d tau. D tau is the volume element. As I told you, psi star psi can be written as the modulus of psi of x comma y comma z. There are many places that I have missed the bracket. I hope that you can follow this. Okay, fine. So if we can replace this dx dy dz with a volume element in a shorthand notation, that is d tau, then d tau is nothing but, in this particular case, what is that particular case? It is the three-dimensional system. In that case, the parallel piped rectangular box you have to imagine, and the volume becomes dx dy dz, which is nothing, in a shorthand notation you can replace with a d tau, right? Now the probability in this expression, whatever you see here, then the size modulus of again there is a small mistake while keeping the bracket. Well, the modulus of psi of x comma y comma z comma t whole square or square is referred to as the probability density. Okay, the probability density multiplied by the volume element d tau is referred to as the probability, right? This concept was actually taken from the mass. You know the mass is equal to density multiplied by the volume. Mass is equal to density multiplied by the volume. This is a simple ordinary expression. So from this you can see here the probability on the left hand side you can correlate with the mass, And on the right hand side, what you have is the volume, that is d tau, and the other one is density. So in the similar fashion, it is referred to as the psi star, basically modulus of psi whole square is referred to as the probability density. Okay, psi star psi is referred to as the probability density. Now, I think I have given almost the complete explanation about the postulate number one, but then it is not over. There is a continuation of the postulate number one. The postulate number one. Now the question is anything that you can define any system of your interest. That's no problem. And once you defined your system accordingly, you can have the state function, and the state function may contain accordingly the position coordinates as well as the time coordinates. So that is there. Now the thing is that anything of your choice, right? Anything of your choice cannot be taken as the state function or the wave function. There are some restrictions are proposed mainly to ensure that the state function is basically acceptable, right? When you think, state function or wave function, I did not reveal what it is, but let me tell you very briefly, a state function or wave function, nothing but a simple mathematical expression. State function or the wave function is nothing but a simple mathematical expression. Suppose f of x is equal to, for example, f of x is equal to x square plus y square. So this is a one function, right? This can be taken to be one state function, right? Similarly, e to the power x square, f of x is equal to e to the power x square. So this is another mathematical function. So state function can be f of x is equal to e to the power x square. So what I wanted to convey the message is very simple. State function or the wave function is nothing but some kind of mathematical expressions which we generally come across in mathematics, right? So we will see different kinds of mathematical expressions, right, as we proceed further and further. But now the point is that can we accept the state functions, whatever it is available in the mathematics, can it be taken? That is a question. Well, the answer is no. As such, we cannot use the mathematical function and then we cannot use in the quantum mechanics. Okay, so the state function, if you are thinking some mathematical function as a state function to describe the one particular system, then it must fulfill certain conditions, and those conditions are basically essential before accepting the state function or the wave function. So in other words, the state function should have some characteristics so that we can accept it and then we can proceed further in solving the Schrodinger wave equation. Okay, some of these characteristics are, of course, not some. Actually, there are three major characteristics. Anything of any mathematical function to act as a state function, it must fulfill three conditions. First and foremost condition is this: the state function must be square integrable. The state function must be square integrable. Okay, so you can just recall the one-dimensional problem, the hydrogen atom chemisorphed on a metal surface, right? I think this is the previously also we discussed about this, and it is executing harmonic oscillation in the x direction. Okay, and if you are only interested in the x direction, the amount of displacement that it is executing along the x direction, then it becomes the one-dimensional problem, and accordingly the state function becomes psi of x comma t. Okay, now suppose if I try to calculate, the probability of this particular hydrogen atom over the entire space. What is the entire space? Okay, this entire space can be different from different system. In this particular case, hydrogen atom that is chemisorphed on a metal surface, right? It is basically chemisorb. It's a chemical bond. So the chemical bond, the maximum of 10% you can basically stretch upon. You cannot basically stretch beyond the 10% of its bond length, actual bond length. And if you stretch beyond that, usually the bond breaks, and then you will not have any chemical bond between the metal surface and the hydrogen atom. So in that case, it is very much defined what is the maximum permissible displacement that it can make. It is maximum 10%. So you can basically integrate it over the entire space. Okay, you can integrate over the entire space, and when you integrate over the entire space, definitely the particle has to be there within that entire space, right? When you start with the particle, and at the end, if you're after doing some kind of exercise, if you are or the mathematical calculation, if you find that the probability is not 1, the total probability is not 1, then basically it is a kind of absurd, right? So there is no other reason why the probability is not 1. Okay, you know that there is a one particle. I mean, in this particular case, there is a hydrogen atom, one is there, and this hydrogen atom is basically executing. Okay, it is oscillating from basically two distances. When you try to basically integrate over the entire those two limits, then definitely the probability has to be 1 in any case, because you have not started with a fraction of hydrogen atom, right? You started with 1 hydrogen atom. Therefore, definitely its probability has to be 1. So mathematically, we represent that concept like this. So the integral minus infinity to infinity psi star x of t psi x of t dx must be equal to 1. Okay. So this is this is very simple to understand. When you are trying to calculate the probability, the total probability within the limits, okay, of a system, any system of your choice. Okay, sometimes the limits can be 0 and x. Sometimes it can be 3 minus 3 to minus 4. Okay, it can be any limits of your choice. That depends upon the system. Therefore, in general and in a broader sense, it is denoted as the minus infinity to infinity. So basically, those represent the limits. Suppose when you talk about the one-dimensional problem, I mean the particle confined to one dimension, then the limits becomes the particle basically kept in a one-dimensional box whose length is L. In that case, the limits can be 0 and L. 0 and L. So basically, the particle is free to move starting from this boundary to that boundary, right? So in that case, the limits are different. Okay, but in general, when we write the general expression, it becomes minus infinity to infinity psi star x of t psi x t dx is equal to 1. So the probability has to be 1. Okay, the total probability has to be 1 when you are trying to integrate over the entire volume or the space, right? Now the question is, in mathematics, we come across there are many functions that do not as such fulfill this condition. Okay, the probability, the total probability never becomes will not be 1. It will be something else. There are many instances where we come across the probability will not be 1. Okay, it will be some number. For example, the total probability when you are calculating, let's say if it is 15. Please remember, integration is nothing but, it's a number. Okay, it's a number. This is this is one state function. This is the state function of the complex conjugate of the state function of one-dimensional problem that we are basically describing, or we are interested in the one-dimensional motion of the hydrogen atom chemisorbed on the metal surface, right? Then the complex conjugate of, you take the state function, you multiply with its complex conjugate, and then integrate it over the entire, multiply with the volume element and integrate over the entire volume. So then basically this is going to be a number, and this number, let's say for example, it is 15. Okay, if it is 15, can we say such a function is acceptable? Okay, as such it cannot be acceptable, but there is something what is referred to as a normalization. There is something what we refer to as a normalization. The state function can be made it to be acceptable by carrying out a process what we refer to as a normalization. Okay, I repeat my statement. Okay, when the total probability is not becoming 1, then we carry out a process what we refer to as the normalization process. By doing this normalization process, one can make the state function which you have begun, which we have started, can be made it as an acceptable function. Okay, let's say in this particular case, we just see it's the integral, the total probability when you're trying to calculate it becomes 15. Now what I'm going to make a small substitution. Let's say my I'm going to define another function phi of x comma t. Okay, I'm just defining another function phi of x comma t is equal to, so this state function, okay, initial state function, I'm going to just divide with the square root of 15. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm taking my original state function, that is psi of x comma t is my original state function of the one-dimensional problem. Now I'm going to just divide with the 1 over, divide with the square root of 15. Okay, now since you are multiplying the original function with some number, naturally it becomes some other function. So therefore I'm just using a different notation, that is phi of x comma t. Phi of x comma t is actually square integrable, is acceptable. Okay, suppose if you substitute phi of x comma t in this expression, this becomes 1, that becomes 1. You can just verify here that, you know, in this case, you know, when you try to multiply, when you try to do the integration over the entire space, phi star x of t multiplied by phi x of t dx definitely will become 1. You can just verify this process. Okay, you can just verify this process and then take it as a small exercise. Definitely this expression will be satisfied. Okay, now so this process what we refer to as a normalization. Okay, so when you are trying to calculate the total probability, it so happen that the total probability will not be 1. Instead, it becomes some positive number. Okay, in such a situation, the state function as such cannot be acceptable, but we can make state function acceptable by carrying out a process what is referred to as the normalization. Okay, now the normalization is nothing but simply you just multiply the number with a suitable normalization constant such that the state function is actually acceptable. Now the question is very simple question. I asked a simple question: can we do the normalization in all the cases? In all the cases, the normalization process cannot be carried out. Okay, I repeat once again, in all the cases, the normalization cannot be carried out. Okay, for example, I just give you a small exercise. You all can just work it out. You can take a pen and paper. You can take a function I just give you. I'm sure that most of you know very well the function. Very simple function I give you, that is e raised to x by 2. And the limits are minus infinity to plus infinity. Take phi of x is equal to, now down please, phi of x is equal to e raised to x by 2, e power x by 2. Let me write here. I will try to write here. This is phi of x is equal to e to the power x by 2, and the limits are, please note down, this is 2, and the limits are minus infinity to infinity. Can you can you can you calculate this integral value? What is the value that you get? Quickly, can you calculate what is the answer that you get? Are you working, Sanjana?
Yes, sir.
Are you working?
Complex number.
Is it a complex number
I
or it is an infinity? It's a complex number or infinity?
wrote I in the term, final term.
Final term is
E raised to infinity into E raised to.
I don't know what you are working on, but you can just simply do this e power x by 2 here, okay, multiplied by e to the power again x by 2.
E raised to
That's all it is,
infinity.
right? Yeah, this becomes basically e to the power
Infinity.
x. Okay, e to the power x becomes e power x only. Okay, now when you try to apply the limit minus infinity and plus infinity, then this becomes what? It's basically infinity, right? It becomes an infinity. So if it is infinity, so when you carry out normalization process, according to the normalization process, we basically multiply the original wave function or state function suitable normalization constant such that the wave function, original wave functions are basically acceptable. Now, when you're trying to do that, initially in the previous case, we multiplied the expression with 1 over, divided, I mean, both ways you can answer. We have multiplied the original expression with 1 over square root of 15, or we have divided the original function with the 1 over square root of 15. Both ways are fine. Okay, when you do that, the infinity in this particular case, it becomes the infinity will sit in the denominator. If it is sitting in the denominator, so what will happen to that? Is it acceptable? Right? So definitely it is not acceptable, right? So we get basically, we don't know how to do the division with the infinity. So therefore, in order to avoid such a complexity that may arise, so we are going to keep a condition. What is the condition? The condition is this: the normalization process of any state function or the wave function can be carried out if and only if the value, okay, the total probability value what you are getting after the normalization, after the when you are integrating over the entire space, it has to be less than infinity. It has to be less than infinity. As long as its value, the total probability value is less than the infinity, then you can happily carry out the normalization process. Therefore, all such cases, the state function can be basically acceptable. Am I clear to you, all of you? Am I clear to you, all of
Yes,
you?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Any
sir.
doubt? Please ask me any doubt if you have. Okay, now I will proceed. Yeah, this is the example that I have given. The another condition or the characteristic that a state function or the wave function should have is the state function must be single valued. The state function must be single valued. What I mean is that, okay, if I substitute, I have a function f of x is equal to something. Okay, for each value I substitute x for x, then I must have a function value. Okay, but I should not have so many. I should not have so many values for one particular x value, right? So let me take an example to explain this. What do I mean by single value? You can consider the sine inverse x function, and the limits are basically -1 and then 1. X is in between -1 and 1. Okay, you know the sine function and cosine function and sine inverse functions, how they behave, right? Now what I do, I am going to substitute x is equal to 0. I have a function. Okay, now this function, uh, it is under consideration for a state function of a some system. Just imagine some system. You can just imagine. Okay, now the question is whether I should admit this mathematical function at the state function or the wave function. That is my question before us. Okay, so when you try to substitute x is equal to 0 in the sine inverse x function, then the sine inverse of 0 is equal to 0. Okay, sine inverse of 0 is equal to 0. Now, sine inverse of x is equal to 0 for all values of pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, and so on, isn't it? You know the values of the sine inverse functions, right? You can substitute the values for pi value, 2 pi value, I mean 180 degrees, okay, 360, and 3 pi value, and so on. So for all values of, for all these x values, then the sine inverse function becomes 0, right? Now the question is, when I try to calculate the probability, I have a difficulty in what is the value that I substitute for x. I hope that I am making it clear to you. So suppose if we have such a system, we have a system and whose behavior is governed by the sine inverse x function. Okay, and we know that the sine inverse x function becomes 0 when x is equal to 0. And the sine inverse function becomes 0 not only to the x is equal to 0, but also to the other values like pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and so on, right? Now the question is, here there is an ambiguity when you are trying to calculate the probability. The total probability when you are calculating, you are going to integrate. Okay, you are going to take the complex conjugate of sine inverse function multiplied by sine inverse function and over the entire volume and integrate over the entire space to get the total probability. Now the question is, what is the value that one should substitute for x? Whether you substitute 0 or pi or 2 pi, 3 pi. In all such cases, the function becomes 0, right? So therefore, this type of the state function cannot be acceptable. This type of functions cannot be acceptable, and therefore we have imposed a condition. The condition is that the state function must be single valued. What do I mean by that? Suppose if I substitute x is equal to 0 in the sine inverse function, it is 0. But if the sine inverse function should not become 0 for any other values of x. If such a situation exists, then that particular function is said to be single valued, isn't it? Right? So that is the meaning of the single valued, and the state function must also obey another condition. That the third condition is it must be a continuous wave function. It must be a continuous function. It should not be a discontinuous function. So what do I mean by that? Okay, again let me take an example that e to the power phi of x is equal to e to the power minus x square divided by 1 plus e to the power 1 by x. That is the function. That is the function. Now this function, what I do is that I'm trying to plot the graph. I'm interested in plotting this graph. Okay, graph of this particular function. Is it possible to plot the graph? Yes, definitely, it is possible. Okay, so the phi of x is equal to e to the power minus x square by 1 plus e to the power 1 by x. It is a simple one variable function, and you can substitute, you can start substituting different values for x, and then you just plot the graph. That's very simple. Now, what I do is that I'll give you one small exercise. You can just work it out, and let me say that suppose if you substitute, let's say if x is equal to minus x is equal to minus 0.01, x is equal to minus 0.01, minus 0.01. If x is equal to minus 0.01, then what is the function value? What is the value of phi of x? Nobody is talking. Can anybody say what is the numerator? Let us work it out systematically. What is the numerator value? Suppose if x is equal to minus 0.01, so minus 0.01, that is the value. What you do, you just substitute wherever x is there, you can substitute this value. Okay, when you substitute, what will happen? So minus, okay, this is a negative number, and then when you're taking square, it becomes positive. And as you can see here, then it is actually a very e to the power minus, okay, 0.01 is very small number, right? This is very small number. Therefore, the numerator becomes e to the power. It is not 0, but then you can approximate this as a 1. Why? Because why? Because e to the power minus some value, and then if that value is very small, then you can take it e power 0. You can take it as a 0. Then e power 0 is what? Basically 1, right? On that ground, it's not precisely 1, but then it can be approximated to do 1. Then what I do, then the other thing you have to calculate. What is the other one? E to the power 1 by 100, right? I mean, not 100 exactly, basically e to the power
E raised to 100
yeah, this can be taken
minus
as a
100. E raised to minus 100.
yes, correct, e to the power minus 100, e to the power minus 100. Okay, it is a large quantity, e to the power minus 100. Okay, so what will happen to this value? This particular thing, it becomes e power x. If x is large, then according the function also very large, right? If x is small, this is exactly is the case. You can substitute minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, and so on. Actually, this is a exponentially decaying function. This you can imagine, right? This is an exponentially decaying function. The decaying function becomes 0 as x is reaching the infinity, right? This is exactly same, and e to the power of minus 100 becomes actually 0. So as effectively this becomes 1. Okay, when if x is equal to minus 0.01. Please note this. And the second case, let me work it out. Suppose if x is equal to not, I think I shall give them these values. Suppose if x is equal to positive 0.1, x is equal to 0.01. If x is equal to 0.01, then the answer would be, okay, the numerator again, it becomes 1. The numerator is a basically odd function, so the numerator again becomes 1, and the denominator, it becomes 1 plus e raised to 100. 1 plus e raised to 100. 1 plus e raised to 100 in the denominator. So therefore, when you try to calculate, this becomes 1 plus e raised to 100. Okay, this is a huge number. Okay, this is a huge number, and together this actually, you can basically neglect this. Since it is a huge number, then you can neglect this one, and you can simply write down that 1 over e to the power 100, which is also, which can also be written like e to the power minus 100. This is equal to e to the power minus 100. What's the value of that e to the power minus 100? It's 0, right? It is 0. Okay, so that is what I have written here. So if x is equal to 0.01, phi of x actually becomes 0, and if x is equal to minus 0.01, then the function becomes 1. So based on that ground, these arguments, so I'm just trying to give the appearance of the plot or the graph of this function phi of x comma t. So as I told you that, you know, when you are close by, the origin, then but not, exactly on the origin. So when you are close by, and if you are in the negative side, what is the meaning of this minus 0.01? You are on the negative side, right? This is actually x, and this is the minus x. Okay, now when you are on the negative side, you are very close by basically 0. So in that situation, the function actually will have a maximum value, that is 1. Just now we have seen here, right? This 1 is here. So, and then later on, basically, as you are actually increasing the value, the negatively, if you are increasing, the function actually decays, and then at a very larger value of x, which is basically negative value, then it becomes basically a 0. On the other hand, if you are trying to be on the right hand side, that is the positive x values, then its value is actually 0. Okay, when you are close by origin, that is here, then it becomes 0, and then it keep on increases, and then it basically decreases in this fashion. Okay, now you can see this particular function behavior. Let's say you are approaching the origin this direction, and it is basically enhancing, and then it is reaching a maximum value. That is point number 1. And all of a sudden, this basically at origin, it becomes 0, and then on the positive side, it basically again increases, and then again it decreases. That is the nature of this particular function. Okay, phi of x is equal to e to the power minus x squared by 1 plus e to the power 1 by x is a mathematical function. And this function, what I claim is that this function is not a continuous function, and I would say it is a discontinuous function. Why I am doing that? Why I am claiming that? It is very simple. as you can see the behavior of the graph, okay, as you are actually approaching negative from negative side to the positive, negative side to the origin, from there to the positive values of the x value, then the function actually initially increases, and then abruptly its value becomes 0, and then it again increases, and again it decreases. So this is a kind of abnormal behavior, I would say, which is not acceptable according to the quantum mechanics postulates. Okay, so this very broadly what we say is that it is a discontinuous behavior. There are several mathematical functions that we come across, and all such functions are referred to as, of course, there are few functions which are actually referred to as the discontinuous functions, which cannot be taken or which cannot be acceptable as a state function or the wave function. Why? Because of the simple reason that, why, after having the state function or the wave function, we try to calculate the probability, right? Just please recall my discussion. Once we have defined the system, we will have a state function. And then once we have the state function, we calculate or evaluate the probability. Right? When you are calculating the probability, then naturally, since your state function is showing a discontinuous behavior, your probability also going to show such a discontinuous behavior. Then why would one would prefer? And we are dealing with some systems which are actually behaving smoothly, not in this type of abnormal behavior. So when we have a real system which are working, which are basically working which are continuous, which are showing continuous behavior, why we should actually assign a discontinuous mathematical function to our real problems? So we should not do that, right? So that is why the third condition is imposed on the state function. In order to accept the state function, any mathematical function as a state function or the wave function, that state function must be continuous. That is the third criteria or the characteristic that a state function should have. Okay, if I summarize the postulate number 1, of course, it is related with the state function or wave function of a system of your choice. Okay, according to the definition of this system, the state function will have a position coordinates, and then it will have one-time coordinates. So according to the number of positions, we will call the system, the state function, as the one-dimensional wave function, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, and so on. Right? And all mathematical functions we cannot accept as such as the state function to describe the system, and any mathematical function to be acceptable as a state function or the wave function, they must actually fulfill 3 criteria. One is the square integrability. Okay, the square integrability is nothing but psi integral minus infinity to infinity psi star psi multiplied by psi star psi d tau must be a number which must be less than infinity. So when you are evaluating the integral minus infinity to infinity psi star psi d tau, it must be a number. It must be a finite number. It cannot be infinite number. So as long as the number is a finite number, then we can actually calculate or carry out the process called normalization, so that the total probability becomes 1. Okay, so that is the square integrability condition. And the continuous behavior, we don't accept any function which is behaving abnormally. We accept only the continuous behavior. The third one is the single valued. A function should have for each value of for each variable value, there must be unique function value. There cannot be different function values, or for one particular function value, there cannot be different variable values. So that is the definition of, or the explanation of the single value, right? So I think with this, yeah, the one foremost very important thing, that any mathematical function, it cannot be acceptable even if it is failing, even if it is missing, even if it is not satisfying this even one condition. Such a mathematical function, we don't accept it as a state function or the wave function. That is the conclusion of today's discussion. I think the further discussion we can carry out maybe possible on Saturday or Sunday. I would like to take one more class. I hope that you will cooperate with me.